Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Hammer. Today is Tuesday, April 30th, 2024. I, of course, with Originator Success. Here with your daily mortgage rate update, the only place on the web where you guys can join me live each and every day at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, broadcasting to you on Facebook and YouTube, where you can come and talk about what's going on with mortgage rates and pricing. Remember, if you're here live, say good morning. And if you're watching on the replay, don't forget to put hashtag replay in the comments, whether you are on Facebook or on YouTube. I do see those, and I do appreciate it when you do that. Remember, if you're on Facebook, go ahead and subscribe or smash that like button, tag an LO friend, share us in a group, click the little share button, choose a mortgage group, just share it. It's help me grow. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to click that thumbs up thing, the notification bell, subscribe, make sure you make that comment. All that stuff does help us, helps us a lot. So also, remember, if you'd like, you can sign up for our free email lock advice, www.ratelockadvice.com. Get it sent to your inbox each and every weekday morning. You can sign up for our text lock alerts, www.ratetextalerts.com. $7 a month. And because we've been asked by so many times, we're going to roll out an annual at $77 a year. Imagine that, $77 a year, and you get text alerts for the entire year for $77. That's equivalent to, that's less than some other services. Now, let's be realistic though. This is only text messages. I'm not taking anything away from those other services. They're all great services and they usually have a lot more features. But if you just want if you just want to be aware on a day like today when we've got so much going on, actually it's tomorrow, then yeah, you want to go ahead and just get those. Last but not least, if you want a reminder that I'm going live each and every weekday morning, you can go ahead and go to hmmr.io/reminder, hammer.io/reminder. All right, that's pretty good. So let's say hi to the live folks, see who's here this morning. Then I got a question of the day for you. Good morning, Deb Dickinson. Good morning, James Mahan. Christy Gibb, good morning. I do see you as Christy Gibb. You're not just Facebook user, but thank you for that. Gina Guzman, good morning. Great to have you here. Who else we got this morning? Mike Tebow, Kyle Mazikas, good morning, y'all. Ron Siegel, good morning. Today is National Oatmeal Cooking Day. So it's not just an oatmeal. Oh, I think you mean oatmeal cookie day. Is it oatmeal cookie day? Because what is oatmeal cooking day? Do you even cook oatmeal? Not anymore. It's all processed. You throw it in the microwave. But if it was oatmeal, you know people who eat, you know why people eat oatmeal cookies? Because they thought they were chocolate chip. No, actually, I do like oatmeal cookies, I'll admit. Allison Foy, good morning. Mallory Fotiadis, Yasmin Martin, Megan Lindberg, Rob Stewart, Tim Klyla, Colin Jordan. Great to have all of you here. Monica Dinkins, haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you. Kim Mason, Laura McCain, great to have you here as well. Yeah, it is oatmeal cookie. That's what I figured. Because oatmeal cooking is a little off. So he said it's oatmeal cooking. All right. I got a question of the day for you, and then we'll go to the good stuff. So here's the question of the day. Would you rather have a personal maid or a personal chef? Let me know in the comments. What would you like? If you're watching on the replay, don't forget to answer the question of the day. All of you that are here live, there's 32 of you on. Make sure you go ahead and let me know. What would you rather have, a personal maid or a personal chef? Me, personal chef, hands down. No second thought about it. I certainly don't mind cleaning up after myself, but I would love, I mean, I enjoy cooking, but wouldn't it just be nice to have like great food ready for you, healthy all the time? I'm definitely going with the chef. Rob Stewart's going with the maid, but so far Garrett Knox going with a chef as well. Megan Lindberg going with the chef. Allison Foy with the chef. Tim Klyla, I love to cook, so he's going with the maid. Kevin, is the chef paying for the food? Yeah, if only, right? Mike's going for a chef. Dan Crowley's going for it. Looks like a lot. It looks like the chef is winning. All right. I'm going to throw this up on the bottom of the screen, and then we're going to go ahead and show you guys. So this morning, there is a little talked about report called the Employment Cost Index, right? The Employment Cost Index. This is normally not something that we would bother to be even speaking of. I mean, heck, this is like the character in the horror movie, like the token person that's always wiped off first. Like the Employment Cost Index, not usually a thing. However, this morning, it's been a big deal. So labor costs rise at a fastest pace in a year and a half. So since third quarter of 2022, in a setback to the Fed effort to tame inflation. And if we take a look here at mortgage bonds, I got to refresh this so it'll load up properly. Bear with me a minute while we wait for that. So this report came out at 8:30 a.m. Mortgage bonds actually started the day off in positive territory. They were up 5-6 basis points, not a lot, but it just basically flat, right? Not anything we would have to worry about. Then we get this employment index, and take a look here. Look at this straight line down at 8:30, and I'll even zoom in on this and scroll it up for you. I mean, look at this straight down. Mortgage bonds were up a little bit on the day, and they went from 99.47 down to 99.21 and have drifted even a little bit lower since then, all because of the report. Now, this is a big deal, and this needs to catch our attention. Why is this a big deal? Because this is about the labor market, right? And it shows you the reaction that traders have to any strength, any report of strength in the labor market. Now, tomorrow, we're going to get the ADP private payroll, which has less of an effect on mortgage rates, but it's going to be there, right? But we're going to get the ISM, is it manufacturing or non-manufacturing? I forget. We're going to get one of the ISM, I think it's the ISM manufacturing report tomorrow. And then we're going to get the JOLTS job opening and labor turnover survey data tomorrow, right? So those are three reports that are going to come out in the morning before AM rate sheets. So if we are looking to lock anything, we want to do it today before those reports come out. All right. Because it's a really good chance that if there's any strength, and there probably will be in those reports tomorrow, it's probably going to make for a weaker morning. Now, we've got the Fed meeting coming up later in the day, and we're going to talk more about that in a minute. But, the thing here, do you have to clean up after the chef? Mike, that is a great question. Ron Siegel also prefers the maid. I enjoy great restaurants too much. Ron, I also do enjoy great restaurants, but I would rather have a personal chef and not go to the restaurants as much. So anyway, taking a look this morning, the 10-year treasury. Let's by the way, let's look at this. Let's move this to the treasury real quick. And can I not? Come on. I want to. All right, I'm gonna. I have to make this smaller so that I can fit that on there. Hold on a minute. Here we go. Come on. And it still doesn't. What a pain in the ass. Hold on a minute. This pissed me off. All right, let's try this one more time. There it is. 10-year treasury. Okay, so take a look here now that I've got this where I want it. And let's scroll it over and zoom it in a little bit here. Look at the 10-year treasury yield went straight up at that report. We were at 4.61 right here, 4.62 basically, depending. But as low as we'll call 4.61, right? And then boom, 4.66. It went up, boom, straight up. Notice in the last 5 days, we had a drop here in overnight trading, but generally you don't see that during the day. Here was a bit of a climb. You don't see that kind of movement in that 10-year treasury yield. So that report, it just, like I said, it shows us how crazy reactive markets are to this data right now. So 10-year treasury at 4.66. Mortgage-backed securities down about 22 basis points to start the day. Yesterday, rates 7.43. That's going to push them up a little bit. You'll see pricing. Rates aren't really going to move. Pricing will get a little worse this morning. So we'll see that. Reprice risk on the day is low. It's not likely that we see anything get worse today. But remember, I said it before a minute ago, and I'll say it all again. We've got all of that jobs data coming out tomorrow morning before the Fed meeting, and it could cause a negative reaction. Now, let's talk about the Fed meeting and what we think the Fed is going to do tomorrow. So starting there, we want to start out looking at what do markets think the Fed is going to do as far as rate cuts for the end of the year. Now, there's two things that we're going to be watching for the Fed meeting tomorrow before the press conference. There's no dot plot. That was March, and then we'll get another one in June. Right? March, April, May, June, right? So this meeting, the May meeting, no dot plot. We'll get one at the next meeting in June. But at this meeting, May 1st, tomorrow, markets are going to be looking at, number one, what is the Fed comments as far as inflation and what signals are they giving for when they're going to cut rates. We know there's not going to be a rate cut tomorrow. Markets, of course, not expecting anything even close to a rate cut. And we should not see anything that we have to worry about a rate hike. That would send markets into a panic. So rates are going to remain unchanged. The Fed not going to make any changes tomorrow. But what do they signal? When and how many rate cuts will we see this year? They're going to say a lot of the same data dependent, blah, blah, blah. We're going to get a lot more activity in Fed Chair Jerome Powell's press conference at 2:30 p.m. when he's asked questions directly and he has to respond to them. The second thing, though, tomorrow is how much is the Fed going to cut the balance sheet, right? So, yeah, here's the article that we want. So, hold on. I got to wait for Reuters to load here. Nope, this is what happened to there it is, balance sheet. Okay, so this is what we're looking at. Is the Fed going to cut the balance sheet? They have been signaling that they would stop the amount of runoff. So right now, the Fed allowing their balance sheet to run off, that is called quantitative tightening. It is the opposite of quantitative easing. What would happen is when they make the announcement, they will reduce the amount of bonds that are maturing that they're allowing back into the market, which creates extra supply. And instead, they'll start buying a little bit again, which will actually create a little bit demand. Now, that should help mortgage bonds a little bit. However, if it's kind of mixed in with all the other stuff, strong labor data, the Fed not cutting rates, disappointed with inflation, I don't think we're going to see a lot of benefit to it. So overall, my theory on where we're going on this week, I think rates are going to end the week higher. I don't think that we're in a great spot. Now, arguably, markets are only pricing in right now. Look at this. They're only pricing in one rate cut is the majority, 40%. There's 25% probability that we won't see zero rate cuts this year. Markets are 1 out of 4, right? 3-to-1 odds that we're not going to see any rate cuts at all this year. Already pricing that in. We started 4 months ago, they were pricing in 6 rate cuts. Now they're pricing in 0, 25% probability. 40% that will get 1. That's 65%, obviously, when you add those two together. Then there's a possibility of 2 rate cuts, 25%, and less than 10% believe there'll be more than 2 rate cuts. So the idea is we may see 2 rate cuts or 1 rate cut, but look at the amount. And if we look and compare this, look at the expectation a month ago, it was, there was 10% expectation that we would see no rate cuts. That's up to 25% now. The expectation, 8% that we would be with 1 rate cut, that's up to 40% now. Instead, where were the expectations? They were that we were going to see 4.5 or 4.25. Much more expectations a month ago that we would be there. Even look at the way, though, that these charts are going up, up, up. See how they goes up, up, up. So we've got a month ago, a week ago, a day ago today. A month ago, a week ago, a day ago today. So a month ago, expectations of 1 rate cut, not very high. A week ago, yesterday, and today continuing to get even higher. That's not good. It shows you which direction things are currently headed. Markets are now, there's an argument that if we see the Fed tomorrow kind of signal, hey, we're not going to be cutting rates anytime soon. If that's the underlying paraphrased kind of message that we get, well, markets are already pricing this in. But I got to tell you, it can get worse. It can get worse. We have not yet really heard talk of rate hikes. However, we could get a very negative reaction to this. If the Fed says anything that opens the door to rate hikes, this will be a catastrophic report. This will be a bad, bad, bad day, okay? If the Fed says anything that opens the door to rate hikes. And you can bet during Fed Chair Jerome Powell's press conference that he is going to be asked about possible hikes. They're going to bring it up. And how he answers those questions and how the markets react is going to be big. And it's going to be big. And if it's big on this meeting, it's going to be even bigger on the next meeting, especially if we don't get some really like a positive CPI report on the 15th, right? We're looking at May 15th. So there's a lot that can go wrong right now. This is really, I'm going to put up my lock advice here for you so you could see it. Anything that's closing in 15 days, I would absolutely have locked up today. I wouldn't float it into tomorrow, not with the JOLTS data, not with the PMI data coming out. I would lock anything closing in the next couple of weeks today. I would not be floating it at all. Now, anything that's 15 to 30 days, you got to go with risk tolerance. And I got to tell you, I don't see a lot of opportunity to see things improve from here. It's just not there. I don't think we're going to see better rates over the next month. So I probably am leaning towards locking those if you want to float into the meeting. And then, of course, we got Friday's jobs data, but it's very unlikely that that's going to give us a lot of benefit at all. As Ron is pointing out here, he said, we know the headlines move the market, but the Fed is looking at internals or headlines. The Fed's looking at both, I think, Ron. I truly believe so. I mean, come on, at the position they're in. But even when you look at the internals, not enough to get excited about this. I mean, at the end of the day, people are out spending money, and we know that we should be knee deep in a recession, and we're not. So we could argue why all of these things show some kind of weakness, point to economic weakness, point to labor market weakness. We could go, all these different things. But the reality is, I read the article in the Wall Street Journal this morning in the print edition, which was, so it's a day later than the other online edition. But, 3 to 5% of the housing market is currently corporately owned. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but that's freaking huge. That is huge compared to 10, 12 years ago. We've got Wall Street buying up homes, home prices staying high. People are spending on credit, and they continue to spend, and banks continuing to lend because we're not seeing the bankruptcies yet. We're not seeing the lates yet. Yes, they're increasing, but not nearly enough to freak out the banks, right? Ron said there's clear downside risk for manufacturing. Aggregate hours worked in Friday's U.S. employment report. Let's see what Danielle DiMartino said. More confusion. Dallas Fed manufacturing current employment index of the preserved recession. The kind of spin to put on the current employment picture is stall speed. Danielle is obviously an extremely intelligent woman and sees a lot of what's in there. But at the end of the day, it's not enough. None of this is enough. And we're not in a position where mortgage rates are going to improve anytime soon. So if you've got loans that you're floating, I mean, anything closing in the next 30 days, I'm leaning towards locking at this point. And again, I didn't want to be. I wanted to cautiously float into the meeting. We can float it to tomorrow, but tomorrow morning we could see some worsening. Just know that, right? And basically, if we float into tomorrow's Fed meeting, we're floating in with the idea that we're keeping the door open, not that we're expecting things to improve, because quite honestly, I don't expect tomorrow's Fed meeting to really help us. Just like it says here, this is a couple of days old, but Powell is poised to keep Fed on higher for longer path. Underlying inflation continuing to be a concern, not moving down fast enough, right? The latest price data showed stubborn underlying inflation in tandem with expectations for a robust employment report on Friday aren't likely to lead the Fed chief to change his tune. I'd have to agree with this part of the Bloomberg article. This is what I think is going to happen this week. But the question is, do you want to keep, as a consumer, would they be floating into this? Do they want to keep their options open? Could we possibly have the Fed, surprise markets? What if we do see tapering? Could that help mortgage rates to improve a little bit? All of those things are kind of the whys you would want to, but how much lower than this are we going to see rates go? You're going to see them go to the 7 3/8 area. That's about it. They're not going much lower. We're not going to see any significant rate movements unless we see a huge loss in labor data, unless we see a big drop in inflation in 2 weeks, unless the Fed were to signal that they're not yet concerned about this and still on track. And none of that seems likely. Do you think it's likely? Let me know in the comments what you guys think. I do not think that any of that is likely. I think that this is going to be a rough week for rates. I think we're going to see them creep higher. I think we're, again, hopefully we don't get anywhere near the highs of October. Hopefully the Fed does not open the door to the possibility of rate hikes. But If that does get said, and if markets start to panic that the Fed may actually pivot again, we're going to see a reversal. Let me make this large for you and get my head out of the way so you guys can see this. We're going to see a reversal. Let me make this small so we can. All right. To this trend back in October. Okay. Back in October, and I'll make this for a year so you could really see it. All right, here you go. Back in October, down here, see this? Remember, when this goes down, mortgage rates are bad. This was the worst mortgage rates we've had at the end of last year when conventional were up in the eights. And when we saw a pivot that the Fed said, okay, we're done hiking rates, and markets started to anticipate that we'd see some rate cuts, look at the rebound. Look how high this chart goes. We went from all the way down here all the way up here. And we did it between the end of October, right here at the beginning of November, to December. Boom. That was when we saw rates. And then since then, they've gotten a little bit worse. They get a little bit better. They've gotten worse, and now we're flat. And if they start talking about hiking again, if there's an idea that we could see a pivot, we're going to see the floor fall off and we will drop big. And that needs to be a concern. I'm definitely concerned about that. If the Fed opens up any kind of door that markets think that we could see rate hikes, we will see a very negative reaction. And that hopefully will not happen this meeting, but it may happen even before the next meeting, all right, 6 weeks from now. So there's no reason to expect that this next CPI report is going to be anything special. Ron is in the camp of less risk, so lock. However, the Fed members see what Danielle is saying. The commentary could be positive for the rate market. She was a Fed insider for 9 years at the Dallas Fed, so she knows what they're looking at. Yes, and I agree with, guys, listen to Ron. Ron's feeding us some really good information. Listen to what he has to say there. Monica says, no, I do not think it's likely. I have someone closing a new construction. Currently, I'm choosing to float. August or September, Monica, that's much, much farther away. And we could see a lot of shifts since then. So we're looking at May. So you've got all of May, all of June, all of July. So you've got 3 months to see things kind of move in the other direction. Now, we don't have a crystal ball, but I don't even know how much more expensive it is to lock in for that far in advance. But yeah, floating that just, that's kind of you've got to see where the market goes kind of a thing. The expense to floating that, to locking that, I wouldn't necessarily lock it either. However, we could look back and go, man, I wish we had locked that. If we see another couple of months of strength and the Fed starts talking about hiking, then yes, you will see higher rates in August and September. Hopefully that does not happen. We don't know that it can happen. It's a possibility. We don't know that it will. There's no crystal ball. So floating that does, it makes sense. And but there's a lot of risk to it. It's certainly not. I don't feel as good about floating 3 or 4 months as I did even just a month ago. A month ago, it was like, hey, yeah. But again, looking at what was going on here, let's look at the expectation for, where the Fed was going to be a month ago. When we do that compare, a month ago, the expectation was, hey, we could see these rates all the way down to 4.25 or 4.5. Well, that's very different than where we're at today, which is no rate cuts or one rate cut. So, a month ago, I was all into that, but the outlook has changed. And unfortunately, all we can do is react to what's going on. So that's kind of what we got going on with that. So, all right, my friends, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. Thanks again. Those of you that voted for a personal maid rather than a personal chef, good luck with that. And none of us are getting any of it. So I have to go make my own breakfast, and you do too. So, all right, my friends, I'll catch y'all tomorrow. We'll see how that, we won't get to see the JOLTS data and stuff unless we stay on as long as we did today, but we'll definitely be talking about a little bit more about the Fed. So, all right, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.